In a world where the balance between nature and civilization is increasingly fragile, there are those who step forward to make a difference. Today on Beyond Her Story, we are honored to host Dr. Sarita Subramaniam, a dental surgeon turned wildlife activist and co-founder of the Earth Brigade Foundation, or EBF. EBF is into wildlife conservation, street animal welfare, and women empowerment in rural India. They've also been recognized with the prestigious Olive Crown Award as the Green NGO of the Year for their extensive efforts. So let us get into this conversation and learn more about the passions that drive Dr. Sarita. Welcome, Dr. Sarita, to Beyond Her Story. It's such a pleasure to have you here.
Same here. I'm really excited to be on the show, Sneha. Thanks for asking me in. Thank you.
We'll start with the questions right away because, I read your story and it's pretty interesting. So The first question I have to ask is about, Dr. Sarita, you're a dental surgeon and you've practiced for 25 years, right?
No, 35 years.
35 years, okay.
Like 1990, I passed from my college.
Okay, so you've practiced for 35 years. And what is it that actually inspired you to transform from dentistry to dedicating your life to wildlife conservation and starting the Earth Brigade Foundation?
It was actually very organic. Means even as I was practicing, we had applied for our NGO status because we realized that we've been traveling across the country doing our bird watching and visiting wildlife safaris and all. But at the end of the day, we realized it's time to give back. I mean, how much to take, how many photographs to take, and how many sites to see. So we realized also the hardships that the wildlife actually go through. There is a path, I always say this, there's an evolutionary path that everybody goes through and ought to go through. So initially you'll be fascinated, you'll be the ordinary tourist, then after that you'll be the photographer or whatever cinematographer, whatever you choose to. But eventually you start becoming more sensitized to nature and the wildlife, both flora and fauna. So we wanted to start our NGO, and we realized that if I have to do help on a large scale, because my husband and I would do little bit as two dentists practicing in Bombay, but for us to actually do on a larger scale, we realized we need support from others. And I actually realized many people are willing to help me. Strangely, it was quite a revelation. I realized that yes, many people are aligned and they need somebody to do the work which they themselves are not able to do but would like to help. So we started our NGO. What helped me actually give full-time attention to my NGO rather than my dental practices, because I had a serious medical condition after my dengue in 2017. Ironically, it's the same time our NGO was formed. And I was bedridden for the better part of the last maybe 4 years, 5 years. And so I had more time to focus on my NGO. Every dark cloud has a silver lining. So while I couldn't practice, I could give more attention to our new NGO and our projects in our NGO.
Okay. And it started off with the wildlife conservation part of it, right? Bit for the Earth Brigade Foundation. So is it because of your travels and because of the love for nature that it started?
Yeah, so once when we were in Kanha National Park, which is a tiger sanctuary in Madhya Pradesh, I saw a young tigress come to a small puddle in the summer month. It was May. And I realized that all she had was that puddle to drink water. And tigers like to soak themselves in water, and that's all the puddle she had. And I realized that if a tiger, who's a top predator, is getting such little water resource for itself, what happens to the other animals? And that's when I realized that water scarcity is a huge issue, not known to many people even now. We all know about the water crisis in Bangalore. Do we know that nearby Mysore territorial forest has tigers, has wildlife, and has no water now? And the animals are migrating out. So we realized that we need to do something back. How much are we going to take from nature, the environment? Everything is about development and progress. So we need to do something.
Okay. So if you can tell us more about the initiative that EBF has taken to provide drinking water to wildlife and how this impacts the ecosystems you serve.
Growing up and all my years of understanding wildlife or learning about wildlife conservation, it was all based on the theory that you help the locals around, the human beings around the forest, and that will make them more amenable to wildlife conservation efforts done by the forest department.
Okay.
But I realize that's a very indirect approach, and time is running out for our wildlife. So we need to do something directly. And
Okay.
for me, providing drinking water was the most basic need for doing wildlife conservation. If I can ensure that the animals have water in the forest and don't need to travel towards human settlements, especially in summer, then I have mitigated a lot of human wildlife conflict situation that happens in
Correct.
summer especially.
Yeah.
So for me, providing water was the very basic and direct way I could help in wildlife conservation.
Okay.
We have other allied initiatives also, but our primary concern is providing water. Now, Forest Department presently, or rather used to supply water through water tankers.
Okay.
It is not that we are doing something new. The Forest Department also of late and the last 20-30 years has been regularly supplying water through fossil fuel consuming water tankers or using generators, diesel power generators to supply water. We provide solar installations because solar installations are more sustainable, renewable, maintenance free, and also obviously it's not polluting, less carbon emissions. So we wanted to take that route. And we provide water. One more unique thing that we do is, maybe as a woman, I multitask. So I don't want to give water from one solar pump set installation to just one water body. We provide underground pipelines so that the water can reach multiple areas, multiple sources and water holes, natural, artificial. They're all supplied through our solar installation. We put a borewell, we put the pump in a borewell, existing borewell, or in a natural water body and draw the water onto the surface. And through underground pipelines, we give it to different water bodies. This also means, many people feel that if there's a river flowing, why are you giving water? There are many small animals which can't come to the river. They can't travel long distances, whether it's birds, small birds, or smaller, lesser animals. They can't reach the water body, which is a perennial one. So we try and provide different water bodies in smaller sources for them. And also, we always give one supply point to the forest guards in the anti-poaching camps. Because they also lead a very, very tough life. Even for them to get water, they have to go several kilometers to get that drinking water. So we like to make their lives a little easier so that they can actually do their primary job, which is of patrolling and protecting our forests. They don't waste time collecting water.
Yeah, I think that's an amazing thought, Dr. Sarita, because like you said, we living in the city, we don't think about these things to that level, I mean, maybe we don't even think to one level, but to that deep level, nobody would even give a thought to. So listening to your story, my question is, you're a doctor, right? How did that entire engineering thing come into place about getting the underwater done and all that?
Yeah. So I'm not technically qualified. I'm a dentist. And so we have a solar company with whom we partner. We've tried different solar companies, but it's a completely different ball game working in the forest. It's very difficult terrain. The topography is not fine. There is the imminent danger of wildlife attacks, both to our team and also to our equipment. And it's not at all easy working in the forest. So our present team is a very dedicated, motivated, nature-loving team. So they do the installation. So they are the technical support to us. So they, like our technical team, we go first to the forest to do the inspection. So if the forest department tells us we need water here, in different parts, I send a team. We first get the site inspected. We see where all we can provide water, where we can't. And then we go for the installation. And after the installation, our team again ensures that there is maintenance, service, and any repair that is done. It's not like out of sight, out of mind.
Okay. That's awesome. Yeah. So, Dr. Sarita, I think the wildlife is one part of it, but it's not just that. You also, the street animals is one more thing that your foundation looks into. So, the plight of street animals in urban areas normally goes unnoticed, right? So, how does EBF approach the challenges of street animal welfare, and what programs do you have to take care of this?
See, unfortunately for us, I must admit, in the last 6 years, our most neglected initiative is the Street Brigade one. We get very little funding for we call it the Street Brigade. This is for our community animals. Very little funding we get for that initiative. So we have just been providing support to either the individual fosters or caregivers or animal or feeders, any animal worker. If there's a
Okay.
need, they approach and we support them, or we give it to the shelters, sometimes in through remuneration. Sometimes we buy them whatever they need. If they need fans, for example, ceiling fans, then we just provide them the entire lot of ceiling fans they need. Unfortunately, our street animal initiatives are very minimal. We focus right now mainly on our green brigade, but
Okay.
every now and then, at least on a monthly basis, we help either an individual foster, individual animal worker, or a shelter. Every month we do donate, to them. So we have an
Okay.
indirect approach there. We are not directly doing any active participation or initiatives in the street brigade aspect. So what I also do, I don't know if I told you this in my introduction, I'm probably the only human dentist in the country who consistently does root canals for dogs and cats.
Oh,
So
okay.
as a dentist, I'm not authorized to put the animal under general anesthesia. Obviously, I'm going to do the root canal procedure only under general anesthesia.
Yeah.
And that's, I go to a veterinarian's clinic. The veterinarian in charge puts the animal under anesthesia, and then I do the procedure.
Okay.
Unfortunately, neither neither veterinarians in India nor a human dentist help out. Very few do, if at all. There is no course for veterinary dentistry in our Indian veterinary system. They don't
Okay.
provide that. So there is no, at best, maybe veterinarians do cleaning or some extractions. They don't do root canal, which is a highly technically sensitive procedure, even in humans.
Yeah.
Very challenging. And what I've done is I would do the procedure. The veterinarian obviously is a private veterinarian. He would remunerate me, but I would give that entire remuneration without any deduction or anything for my expenses. I would just donate it to an animal shelter, because I believe that I had done recently for an American bully dog a root canal procedure, and I donated that to an animal shelter in Bombay, the entire funds, because I feel not only did I help the animal who was in distress, with I also multiply the benefits by providing whatever is needed for an animal shelter where there are many other stray animals.
Yeah.
So that's what I would do. I think my personal contribution to stray animals.
I think that's really very noble of you, Dr. Sarita, because it's very few people who go to the extent of doing these kind of things, especially for street animals. And,
Yeah.
yeah, so it's very noble of you.
Yeah.
And it's not just that, you also, I mean, you are like multifaceted and multi passions you have of giving back. So the other thing that you are doing is the Pink Brigade, what you call in EBF, empowering women in rural and forest dwelling communities. And, it's crucial for sustainable development. So what specific strategies does EBF employ to educate and support these women in these areas, particularly, concerning their menstrual health?
See, as a woman, obviously, menstrual hygiene and menstrual health is very important for me personally, and for whatever I can do through my NGO. So, what we do generally is, as part of giving back to the forested communities, the women are, amongst the poorest of poor in our country, live around the forested areas. Most of them are tribals, and so they all use cloth for their menstrual hygiene, which is obvious. Menstrual periods. They
Yeah.
obviously don't then use anything hygienic. So we provide them disposable sanitary napkins, which are compostable, considering the fact that it is an eco-sensitive area. We provide them their annual. So how many of our women are there? So we give usually for 1,000 women, say in Kana National Park, around Kana National Park. So their year-long supply of the sanitary napkin is given. We have also provided, even close to Bombay, in RA, which has some 27 tribal villages inside, and we provide sanitary napkins to them. We also provide sanitary napkins in flood affected areas, wherever it is, or we have even provided sanitary napkins to the Manipur riot victims long before the people even knew about a crisis. There was a friend who was helping them, and we managed to great difficulty send the sanitary napkins from Bombay to all the way to Manipur. But yes, so it's very important for me to ensure that the women are healthy, because I feel you keep the women healthy in the family and they
Yeah,
prioritize their health, the health of the family just improves,
correct.
obviously. Yeah.
Definitely.
And so when I used to go to RA to distribute the sanitary napkins, I realized that there is a clear distinction even here. So if the women or the girls in the family were to go outside the house for work or to college or school or whatever it is, the family budget would allocate them sanitary napkins. But the women
Oh,
inside the house, yeah, it's so discriminatory. So the women
mhm.
inside the house or the
Oh,
girls who are not working or studying, they are not given the sanitary napkins. So I would ensure that they get it.
yeah.
So it's very discriminatory. The only thing I would say is what I would have liked or would like to do is actually provide them the menstrual cups.
Yeah.
But it's not easy. It's
Yeah.
not
I
easy
mean,
for two reasons. One, there's a huge taboo, and our NGO is very small and we don't have the bandwidth or the resources to go teach them, educate them, and tell them about it. So I'm
yeah.
more than willing to have any NGO who would like to take up the awareness part, education part, and we will supply the menstrual cups. That's
Okay.
my only concern. The menstrual cup would be so much more environment friendly and
Friendly.
user
Correct.
friendly. Yeah.
Very true. So, congratulations on EBF receiving the Olive Crown Award for Green NGO of the Year. So, could you briefly share like what this recognition means for your team and the work that you're doing?
See, we are a very young NGO. We started our solar installation project also just 6 years ago, but we've managed to do, as of now, as of today, 128 installations across the country in
Wow.
19 different forests, 7 different states, and 10 of them are tiger bearing reserves.
Wow.
And yeah, it's actually, honestly speaking,
Amazing.
it's a very thankless job, because if I were to do anything for, let's say, human beings, the impact, the great gratitude that they would show, they will all be, boost our morale. But
Correct.
when we provide water to wild animals, see, even if I were to feed biscuits to stray animal, it responds back with some, a tail wag, or it'll be friendly, and we don't get any of that. It's like
Yeah.
such neki kar or darya mein dal de, means you do good, you forget about it.
Yeah.
So it is immensely satisfying, however, when we see wildlife come to the water bodies supplied by our solar installations.
Yeah. Yeah.
I see, I'm just goosebumps. I cannot tell you how soul satisfying it is. It's just that the wild, like when I see a herd of elephants with their calves and all drink water from our water body, I feel they trust this place. They know that they are safe here, their calves are safe, and they're not going into the river, though the river is close by. They're not going there. They're actually drinking water from our water body, provided by the solar installation. That's really what I feel motivates our team and us, obviously. So I just have to beg harder to ask for funds, which obviously that it's very, very difficult to get funds for animals, that to wild animals.
Yeah.
And also there's such little awareness about the huge water crisis in our forests.
Yeah.
So no awareness, where will people help?
Correct. Yeah.
So, but it's amazing that we got the award, that somebody actually recognizes, and that
Yeah.
to a prestigious one like Olive Crown Award. Very, very happy about it, and really happy. I mean, genuinely happy.
Yeah, I think what you spoke about awareness is completely true because, like, even I didn't know before I spoke to you, I hadn't given it a thought, nor, I had even thought about animals in forest having water crisis. Like you said, we normally think about humans, maybe to some extent, we even think about street dogs and all, but nobody actually thinks about it. So, like you rightly said, I think that awareness is something which needs
I
to be created.
Yeah, no, I think here, wildlife lovers, conservationists, all of us are to blame. If we have not made the public aware of a problem,
Yeah.
and if they don't know how they can help or whom they should help, how will they actually help out? If, like I told you, there was such a media awareness campaign going on about Bangalore's crisis. I'm telling you, Mysore forest is not too far back from where, it was happening here. Yet nobody thought, even those who keep water as a water bowl for birds and animals. Now there's a lot of campaign going on for even stray animals, keep water. But nobody thinks who is providing water for the wild animals. Simply because we all believe that our forests are full of flowing rivers, gushing waterfalls, and perennial water bodies. We don't think that there is a dearth of water sources, but we need to understand if we are drawing so much water from the ground through bore wells and other sources, if we are drawing water for agriculture and human settlements, which the numbers are just going, increasing day by day, how is it possible that the water in the forest, the groundwater level will remain the same? The aquifers in the forest are also drying up. And so if somebody asks me, what am I doing? All I say is, I am only providing help to an ICU patient. It's a crisis mode. I'm only giving CPR. The patient is in ICU. I am not going to lecture people about not smoking if a patient is having a heart attack, right? I need to just do CPR, do whatever is needed to save, put the person, the patient in the hospital, the surgery, if need, can be done. If necessary, it will be done. The awareness campaigns to not let that patient smoke cigarettes post the surgery. All that is, all I'm doing is immediate treatment. But even for that, time is running out. Because every time water is not there, these animals in search of water go towards human settlements. When they go towards human settlements, that is when the crisis of, a conflict happens. And conflict is inevitable if they go. Plus, if there is no water in the forests are degraded. There's no grasslands management. What will the herbivores eat if there's no food in the forest? They go out into the field. Crop depredation takes place. The farmer loses the crop. Then, there is retaliatory poisoning. So all that happens. And when the herbivores go, what happens is the carnivore will follow. The leopard or the tiger will go. And the conflict again increases. So by just providing water, we tackle a lot of, the cascading effect of providing water is amazing.
But like you rightly said, I don't think we would have even thought that it's a full cycle, because of which it happens. And there are a lot of components and aspects which lead to this.
Correct. No, it's about making people aware. See, once you tell people like there is a water scarcity, like when you told people that keep water for sparrows, you never used to do that in your childhood, right? Nowadays, you realize that you need to keep food or water because it's difficult for them. Same thing, you like it is there, you just need to provide water in the forest as well.
And for wildlife conservation, it's not just this, it involves complex legal and societal challenges as well, right?
So, Earth Brigade Foundation, I don't know if you've heard about Tigress Avni. She was a tigress from Maharashtra, Tipeshwar, Maharashtra. She was given the order to be shot dead by the chief wildlife warden because she was declared as a man-eater and that she had killed supposedly 13 people. But our NGO, EBF, back then we were just 2-3 years old, we fought 3 PILs in the Nagpur High Court, which is a branch of the Bombay High Court, and we lost all 3 of them. We went to the High Court, to the Supreme Court, lost that also, and eventually she was shot dead by a private hunter, a shikari, that too summoned by the Forest Department. So our next, the petition after she was shot dead was to bring justice to her death because she was a mother and she had 2 cubs. And she didn't really stray out of the forest. It was all the cowherds and the villagers which were going into her forest. And we believe that if you're not going to keep the forest inviolate or grazing, the biggest challenge for our forest right now is the tremendous influx of cattle that are going into the forest and eating all the tigers, herbivores or leopards, herbivores' food, which is the grass, the fodder. So if the cattle are going to eat that, then what is the deer or the wild boar going to eat? Then they go into the forest, out of the forest. Of course, Avni never went out. There's one killing, the very first one, which they are attributing at the periphery it happened. But all other human killings, if at all, were all inside the forest. So all they had to do is stop people from going into the forest, but they would take. So eventually, anyway, our last petition has also been disposed of by the Nagpur High Court. The order is not uploaded, so we don't know what it contains. And based on whatever is there, we will decide whether to go to the Supreme Court. Now, very few people actually, again, take up PILs, especially for wild animals. It's not our society is obviously not very animal friendly. We might worship Ma Durga, but within a few days after Dashera, we will go and kill her, and her two cubs are orphaned, and they obviously died later. So it's not a great place to be in. If you get into tiger activism or wildlife activism, it's a very, very sad place, because you won't have too many people supporting, because people will go with the general narrative, which is that you kill one, you sacrifice one. You sacrifice one in the larger interests of the species. So the effort should be in species conservation and not individual conservation. But for me, any species cannot survive if you're going to kill the mother and the offsprings. Every species will proliferate and prosper if you allow the mother and offspring to thrive. If you're going to kill the mother and then say, oh, it's okay, sacrifice. And when you have only 3,000, even I doubt that number, but even if you have only 3,000 tigers in the whole world, then in India, that is, of course, the Bengal tiger, if you're going to kill them one by one for some reason or the other, or you're going to put them in captivity, then it defeats the purpose of the very tenets of conservation. So I feel this theory itself for me is flawed now in today's time. It might have been fine earlier. Now we need to have a paradigm shift in thinking about tiger conservation. We can't go by the narrative that the older tiger conservationists and wildlife conservationists say. It's not helping the species, because human greed, you cannot satisfy humans and hope that wildlife will thrive. There has to be, you can't broad brush it. You have to have a carrot and stick policy. You ensure that if there are good forested communities, you encourage them, you do whatever is needed them to support them, their efforts. They are living in a synergistic way with the wildlife, great. If not, if there are people in that community, in that forested community, who harm wildlife in whatever way or break wildlife laws, we should see that they are penalized. Unfortunately, our wildlife law is very strong but not implemented, and definitely the penalization is also either tardy or not applied at all. It defeats the purpose, no?
Yeah.
If there is, then it's just a wallflower. It's correct. Not, So I can go and kill a tiger, but if I can electrocute a tiger by saying that I had to protect my crop, but what am I doing? I'm taking power supply from the overhead lines and electrifying my fence. And if the tiger is killed and I say, no, I'm protecting my crop, that's not right. No, that guy should be penalized, because he's illegally tampering with the electric supply. He's killed a tiger. So it's not a great, that space is not a great space. So I'm usually literally a lone wolf fighting, because I have very contrarian views compared to the existing narrative. So it's not, but I believe in myself and I believe in my conviction.
Yeah. I think we can see that you're totally passionate about it, Dr. Sarita, and it comes out in your conversation as well. So, Dr. Sarita, I think there are many people who are as passionate about wildlife conservation and the other brigades that you're doing, but may not know how to proceed or what do they need to do to take it forward. So, where can people reach you? And can we leave some links or some email IDs that people can
So I'll share with you our NGO's website details. We are on Facebook, Insta, Twitter, LinkedIn, or everywhere. You can connect with us either way. We don't really look for volunteers in the forest, because we work usually in restricted areas only with the permission of the forest department, and we don't just go in and come out as we wish. I don't like to take favors as far as possible. So we just do the installation, come, and as and when there's repair or anything needed, we go. But we are always looking for people who, of course, will fund us, but also spread awareness about the fact that when they go to the forest, for example, if they've seen a water body, please understand that that may not be a natural water body. We don't even think, okay, is this water body a natural one? Can we ask our guide, is this a natural water body, or is this being supplied through either solar or tanker water?
Yeah.
In earlier times when I used to go, we would see the tankers. So nowadays we don't even see the tankers because all these underground pipelines are the ones which are giving water to the water bodies. So those who have gone into the forest, they can help other NGOs. I'm not saying only help our NGO, other NGOs, animal NGOs working towards wildlife conservation.
Yeah.
And if you know any wildlife NGO which does direct work in whatever capacity, please help them, because I feel there is enough and more awareness that is needed, and campaigns have been running for a long time for the locals.
Yeah.
And now with the advent of internet and mobile phones, information is accessible to even the forested communities. So earlier, when my husband and I, we would donate solar lamps, not through our NGO, in our earlier capacity, when we would do that, the first thing the forested community villagers would ask is, mobile charge hota hai kya? That was the first, not the light.
Yeah.
So mobile charge hota hai kya? So they all have access to now, even smartphones are cheap. So internet information is accessible to them. So I feel we need to step down a bit in these awareness campaigns for the locals. They know enough that what is wildlife, why they should not do. They know enough. So if they are still doing it, in my opinion, it is because of the poor implementation of the wildlife WPA. The laws are not implemented. So that is the reason why they will pretend as if I don't know. It's like, as a city person, if you break the signal and your car is stopped and the officer asks you for fine, you can't say, oh, I didn't know that I'm supposed to stop at a red signal. You're supposed to know, right?
Yeah.
So that's good. And you will be penalized. Not knowing, ignorance will not get you away, except I suppose in wildlife crimes, because animals are speechless. Animals don't give vote. So they can't really come out and speak anything in their behalf. If there is some issue against animals, they are not going to do a chakka, like a roadblock and strike. None of it. They are not going to vandalize the forest department's vehicles. They're not going to burn them. All this happens with people and wildlife conflict areas in situations. So you should rally behind wildlife NGOs who are advocating stronger implementation of the WPA, and see, while there are, like all government departments, there are some forest departments who are not very actively helping wildlife. But please support the wildlife, the forest department officers, and officials who are working really hard to support and, protect our wildlife. So if they are, if they are cordoned or rather hassled by the local villagers, see if you can do something in support of that wildlife officer, that forest officer. These are things which you can do beyond just keeping water for wildlife, your bird. You can do so much just sitting at home. Write letters to your MP, your MLA, saying that we want stronger implementation of the wildlife laws. That also everybody can do sitting on the laptop.
Yeah, very true. Yeah. So we'll leave the links and the email IDs in the description in case people have any questions and want to know more about this. And it's been a wonderful conversation, Dr. Sarita, because I really, to be very frank, I have been ignorant in this matter. And
we all are, no? We learn.
Yeah. It's and it's been very, impactful the way you speak, and the what do you say, the passion that you have for this wildlife conservation. It speaks when you speak, actually. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and your views, and the way you've been tirelessly trying to do this through your NGO. And we really wish that you get all the funds and the
thank you. I need that.
And the awareness that you're looking for.
Yes.
So thank you so much.
Yeah. Thanks, Neha, for having me over. Thanks a lot.